Everyone, hopefully now after some initial drop frames. I wanted to share here some probably news and surprises for some. So turns out, sort of breaking news, according to some developers, Xorg server apparently considered Abondonware. Certainly those in the Linux ecosystem for a decade or two might have seen this coming, and I made a video of trying out Wayland recently. And so this is a little bit of a summary or after work discussion and summary of the state and why I'm not so super most impressed. So apparently some developer set you on some mailing lists. Also here's the last major release of Xorg server 2018, also after 30 years in development. Maybe that's okay, despite the security stuff they're still found on a yearly basis. And we have also seen, and I myself pointed out a couple of times, this bloody Xorg driver, not a release in probably 6 years or something, which they even commit there. I really wonder why the freaking Intel developers can't release this. And so with the latest experience, so Wayland, I said this before, some 6 years ago, Wayland was not amazing. I tried it out some days ago and it worked, finally got it to work like mostly. But, well, for a normal desktop, it might be somewhat usable, but with our YouTube live stream, exactly the one thing. Also here, 30 years of development, the freaking stuff just works in Xorg, but not yet in Wayland. And so, what is the difference? So, here are some nice protocol things. So the difference is good old-fashioned Xorg stuff, not the super most amazing graphic. Comes here from Wikipedia. So the difference is previously in Unix for decades, 30 years, we had this Xorg server, the server process with keyboard mouse handling, and the X clients, as many of you might know, are network transparent, although for decades we had shared memory optimization, so that not, if you have the shared memory extension, a lot of stuff is at least some mostly shared memory. And of course, over the years, Xorg was updated with support with very modern extensions of Xdamage for damage tracking and Xrender for modern blending operations. So what is different in Wayland is mostly, if you take away the shared memory and stuff, it's basically modern Xorg of blending with everything directly mapped and no network transparency. So this stuff is not network transparent. All the buffers should be DMA buffers or otherwise with DRM and Linux directly mapped stuff. So they promise snappier graphics because no network transparent stuff, no outdated stuff, and all the drawing is client-side. In the Xorg protocol, you have line drawing, fills and stuff, all the good old-fashioned vintage, where in Wayland you have nothing of this. You have only RGBA buffers that are blended together by the compositor. So it doesn't even look that much different, to be honest, with all the modern stuff. So we use a lot of components that Xorg also uses, like FDEV or event dev stuff for keyboard and mouse, modern keyboard, mouse, touchpad, KMS kernel, mode setting, direct rendering manager of Mesa Direct graphic stuff. And so the major difference is doing away with network transparency and all server-side drawing, including in Xorg stuff of server-side or client window manager side decorations of Windows stuff. So in Wayland, for even more differences, the decoration of Windows title and close buttons and stuff needs to be drawn client side. So on the big picture, it doesn't look that different. Again, the big changes, however, no network transparency and only blending and always compositing. But when you take a look, so what are the issues? So my grief with this stuff is that I tried again to use it a little bit. There are also solutions. So the big thing for me, except not the super most impressed. So why I'm not the super most impressed? So the first thing is, with Xorg, they promised us set UID-less Xorg server, right? And when you look here at this way, so it starts already with all the compositors. There are several, I think Compits and Kevin and GNOME compositor stuff, and it starts already with all of them. You start differently, and also on systems without logIND, you need to set user ID this sway binary. So yeah, did they not promise us set UI? So what this means is this stuff is then, if a normal user runs it, it's running with root privileges. It needs to drop them ASAP. If you don't do this, I tried this. So if you don't do this and start like sway with which is one compositor, like i3 compatible or so, then you get like DRM, no rights to become DRM master or something of that sort. So yeah, change mode plus S, your sway binary. That is, the reference compositor is Weston, so Wayland of the graphic subsystem stuff, like an Xorg server, and then Sway. So this is compositors like X compositor, or basically window manager in one thing. Weston comes with a Weston launch. Again, this is a reference compositor. Comes with a Weston launch thing, which probably also is set user ID root, and also it's for Weston you have a new group. I tried this first like Weston launch, and then it's like you're not in the Weston launch group or something of that sort. So user group add there myself to Weston launch something, because you can never have too many groups. But so from this is, I find already hilarious, right? With Xorg we had start X or just X or xinit or something. Here we have this one, running compositors directly, and the consequence of this, it's not only starting and like it still needs to be a little set UID. I thought X did away with that, but no. The other implementation is, which I find really crazy, is that all the device handling, like input and display configuration, is not like you don't have like one configuration for all your Wayland stuff. No, that would be too easy. Like this would be to Windows and Mac OS. All of those compositors here come with their own input and keyboard handling. Besides the keyboard stuff, I said this already in previous videos, the keyboard stuff is recycled from Xorg, which is not the worst idea, but they even write, temporary, it's like not amazing, but you're reusing Xorg stuff and something. But I find this really stupid. So each time you want to try something else, because for example Weston doesn't support the modern, also there are 15 different protocols, and in 2020 we need to have different screen capture protocols, because one working protocol apparently not enough. So each time you try something else new, you need to Google the freaking configuration, or you run GNOME and KDE stuff. But input configuration is like Weston, the referencing uses init files, not TOML, because Tom's minimal obvious config thing would be too obvious. So Weston uses ini, this here uses some kind of JSON, or I don't know what. Which is also hilarious, right? So each time you try something new, because screen capture doesn't work, let's try Sway, because it has some WL roots protocol stuff, because screen capture and stuff. It's like, doing everything again that I Googled together some days ago. Also here's some hard-coded stuff, right? And I mean, so I started Sway and I could like get nothing started, and then it's like, because 2020, I mean, I understand some people like a tiling window manager. Also, by the way, examples this is like hilarious. 2020 freaking make caps lock work. Oh, work is escape. I thought make caps lock work. Okay, sorry. Take this back. I thought make caps lock work. Anyway, all this, it's just hilarious. Also, then the stuff is wallpaper handling, like not some like Wayland. Wallpaper thing. Each thing has its own wallpaper thing. Probably there's a protocol for that, and it works with GNOME and KDE. But you just configured your Wayland yesterday or your Weston yesterday, and today you can redo this. Again, with this Sway, I gave up. I couldn't get anything to start. I probably need to read. Like, also, this is so depressive, right? You do Linux for 20 years. You finally do because X. Why do I even look at this? Because X is Abondonware. Probably don't want to continue to run Abondonware. And then you look at this stuff, this somehow 12 years, like over a decade of Wayland, everything feels like unfinished, like hacked together. This way, probably I'm just too stupid to read the freaking documentation and probably need to configure a freaking hell of keybindings. But why does this stuff also not come like black box with some, at least the Western reference compositor comes with some freaking start terminal button there that you can start your freaking terminal. Yeah, so what are we talking about? So WL ROPS here is some, because 2020 you need to Google your and tips on Discord and experimental OBS plugins for screen capture. Although yes, not everyone is YouTube streaming and stuff, but I also read people, but also 2020 more people stream their games and even Zoom and Discord screen sharing stuff. So it's not only YouTube streaming, it's also sharing with your friends and family, administration, for fun and for profit on Discord and Zoom and maybe GoToMeeting and whatnot. So it's not like I'm the only one who needs, well, I'm not the only one because other people hacked some stuff together. Long story short, this stuff here, only segmentation faults on me, probably because I don't run the, you would think this SPCI, what was it, where is it even? VLROPS backend of, so long story short, this only segmentation faults for me, obviously because it is 2020. Probably because I'm not, I was hoping this SCPY protocol thing might be in Western, but maybe it isn't. Also use DMA-buff, because for this DMA-buff you need a hacked up version of OBS with EGL backend and native Wayland support. And it's like, yeah, I spent another 45 minutes on this. I only got more gray hairs from this, and this feels exactly like 1998. Nothing has changed except now we don't have network transparent protocol and new stuff to read the freaking manual for. And this is exactly this kind of experience why I started to transition to becoming a YouTuber. And it's like, what is the future of Linux, right? For 30 years of Linux, we have now a new windowing server that is all the same hackiness all over again. And it's like, yes, there were 14 not amazing standards and protocols, and now we have 15 or 21. And yeah, and I also wonder why this stuff like Sway doesn't come up with some default configuration that can launch a terminal. Or anyway, so yeah, if you want to know more stuff, there's certainly Wikipedia articles, and I heard for many people it works amazing. Certainly the big distributions have all their systemd and login and all the surrounding glue hacked up in a way that works. But this way it's like, yeah, and also configuration. All right, maybe I should have copied them more. All right, i3 configuration. Yeah, I don't have i3, otherwise copy the sample to. Maybe I should have copied the sample. So I'm used that software has some default configuration, but this is the same as the suckless software. People make suckless software and then it doesn't have configuration, right? I mean, this is also, it's a joke in itself calling this suckless when in my opinion it sucks more, that a lot of their stuff, it's like, yeah, it doesn't have configuration because configuration is editing the source file with defines and whatnot and recompile it. It's like, this is not suck less, it is suck more. It doesn't have a freaking, not even Tom's obviously minimal configuration language stuff. So as Marco already pointed out the other day, waste of time, and with this kind of stuff I never get my microkernel done. And yeah, that is right. Of course, I need a non-Abondonware default desktop here for the next years to come, obviously. And with running a distribution, I certainly need to keep my eyes a little bit open, updated some packages and so on. But yeah, Marco writes, personal opinion, I like Wayland, I just don't like the tooling. So basically, this summarized quite this video here. Wayland as a good idea. Also, I understand it can't be a drop-in replacement and done 100% compatible with an Xorg server, but like relearning, redoing. Also, yeah, open source, right? We don't like what we have for 30 decades. Let's rewrite everything from scratch. Well, obviously I want to do it with my own microkernel, but there are good reasons. Well, certainly I could reuse L4 or this Fuchsia future thing from Google, which maybe we do, although rewriting it from scratch certainly helpful. Beside, I might want to have some boot code to have some more modern boot stuff on SGI and RISC-V, like EFI, less RISC-V booting without getting a headache. So certainly I said it before, and certainly the YouTube educational stuff of writing some low-level code and showing you how memory management unit and other low-level code and device drivers work, like we have done this graphic stuff. So basically that's it. Highly frustrating, especially I somewhat understand that OBS, which also supports Windows and Mac OS, I'm already surprised that it works better. Well, OBS for me on Abondonware Xorg works way better than on Mac OS, and trust me, I tried. OBS on Mac OS was a huge dumpster fire. Didn't even support. Yeah, Mac OS also doesn't support audio capture. You needed some plug-in, third-party open source plug-in for capturing your desktop audio or something. Stuff that just worked with Pulse Audio, if I actually hope it pulls audio, but I think I've, yeah, view meter moving. So yeah, 2020 with Abondonware Xorg works better for me than macOS, but with Wayland it's like, nah, it's as amazing hashtag peakbugs as macOS. But yeah, what basically the summary is, in general, the technology stuff is, yeah, it's simpler for more snappy desktop stuff. Also, yeah, I mean, it's not too unsnappy, right? Not really sure was it that necessary. I don't know. I had super snappy compositor stuff like Compit super snappy 3D stuff on an Intel GMA 950 or whatever that was MacBook in 2006. So was it really that necessary? Is it really that more snappy over Xdamage and Xrender extensions and OpenGL or Vulkan-based compositors and Xorgland? But most frustrating is that redoing everything and 30 years later in 2020 reads a freaking manual of strange to configure and not working by default, and certainly the whole screencasting stuff, not only for OBS but all the other use cases. You would think they would have figured that a decade ago, as Wayland stuff is already 12 or 13 years old. So yeah, the out-of-the-box experience, the most frustrating thing, especially for long-term Linux users. And Ella, is it Ella? I think it's Ella. Implementation is absolutely amazing done. One of the protocols are just incomplete though. Like a way to go, authentication to a node without legacy. So there might be one screen, Ella writes, one GNOME and WL roots, and yeah. What else do we have found? J American found his car is using Wayland in the infotainment system. That's interesting. Which car would that be? Since Linux 5.8 users are able to become and drop DRM master. Okay, I'm running 5.9 though. Why does that not? Maybe it needs other. Does it need other? 5.9 DRM. There is some. There are never enough config options for whatever. One issue, of course, additionally for all the fans of vintage and retroware, is of course with X being Abondonware, we lose all support for eventually, but maybe some other people keep maintaining it. you also wonder what is so difficult in just applying, maintaining some patches and releasing the stuff occasionally. Stian writes, they use Wayland now. Imager Wayfire can take screenshots but not really record screen with OBS. GNOME with Wayland and GNOME X11. KVM Wayland performance was horrible. Yeah, so with Wayland, of course, you need compose settings, so you need like basically graphic acceleration to work for performance to be reasonable. So yeah, if you run this in a VM, you need that with some 3D support pass-through stuff. And what else did I want to say? GNOME, Wayland, and GNOME X11. All right. Another thing is, of course, that as long as we have X stuff, this nice graphic here of all is so easy is, of course, a little bit more complicated with X Wayland, for example. So we have here Wayland, and again, each compositor doing its own input, which is it's hilarious. Quite some design drawback, in my opinion, that each compositor has its own input handling and stuff that is ridiculous, in my opinion. But so we also have still some Xorg server as long as you want to be able to run legacy X applications. So this stuff is, of course, then going between X clients here and whatever that might be, and back to between Xorg and Wayland, obviously. So, which, depending on what you're running, might be a considerable amount of legacy stuff. Coming from i3 to Sway, Easter egg is next to no additional configuration to do. Yeah, I wasn't running i3, but yeah. Anyway, I also don't want, for like, probably i3 does not suit my use of Windows systems the most, and then just using, for example, Sway just because it's the nearly only compositor where OBS, where some experimental external out of tree capture stuff might work. Yeah. For, let's see what other stuff scrolled by. Who is Luke Smith? Eller says, or Easter egg first said, what do we have? 1 hour. Stian installed Wi-Fi, used 1 hour to set it up when using. We're supposed to go to bed. It's WL root space 2, desktop replacement. Easter egg writes, but monitor configuration, they have no time fiddling around with command line sitting business meetings, just need. Yeah, so monitor configuration is also basically, it was easier for me with Western, with Wayland and Western already the other day. It's like monitor configuration, of course. Let me open that. That probably was it. Config and Western ini, of course. And so I tried here some stuff. So that is the stuff. So you need this in even reference compositor of Western for this X Wayland stuff to work, and then of course 2020. Of course, it's not GNOME and KDE. You hardcode your keyboard mapping there because this layout stuff somehow didn't work. It should somehow work, something like that. Also, 2020, right? Read the freaking manual, like ls. So how to configure that? ls some this class DRM or something, and then like takes the output name, and it's like, yeah, what the heck? And then people wonder that it's not the of the desktop Linux. And then I put this there that somehow didn't have much effort. So basically after 10 minutes fiddling around with this bloody output stuff with Western and Wayland, I just changed because my two displays were swapped, and just like after 10 minutes of this garbage, it's like, yeah, okay, let's just change the cables in the graphic card. Yeah, 2020, it's easier to swap your cables and configuring that. And for sure, probably with a GNOME applet thing, it probably supports that, but alright, expect the Discord situation to improve when Electron gets native Wayland supports. Like, yeah, Electron apps. Who's Luke Smith, but whatever. Suckless is great. Meme, loving it. So, what do you mean? You mean like what I said, like suck less sucks more, or like less is more? But what does Günther, oops, so much for configure and compile? What exactly? Is this a reference to the suck less of you need to edit the freaking source code for your configuration? Easter eggs has try recommending ST for suckless terminal singer. Vaporous Sunrise says ST is probably the most sane out of the bunch. So the crazy thing is it's even a German non-profit. I think the last time I think so. Basically, they can take tax-free donations, which we have not even, IFA, eingetragener Verein, registered union here. Hello, is this also loading something? So this is also hilarious, right? I mean, we never like so much to hear. We run a distribution with all the 3,000 of packages and all the architectures, and other people make for the freaking sucking less sucks more stuff and registered union stuff of tax-free donation stuff of, probably leave in the comments below, is it time for a T2 EV for tax-free donation stuff at least, but it's only tax-free of or tax deductible, but probably only for Germans, so probably it's probably not really worth the effort unless my own company tax-free donates to the T2 EV of, but probably don't get me started on this kind of bullshit. So yeah, that's probably it for this video. Easter egg, like, sane as in add this patch or use Tmux for back scrolling. It's like, you had me edit the freaking source code for freaking configuration. It's like, keep your suck lessing software for yourself. Certainly don't need that. Steven says you could send your config to Sway without one, it's like nothing to do. Which is also hilarious, right? If this is one of the major like outstanding stuff, means this stuff should at least have something by default. I thought I copied something and maybe I copied that wrong. I need to check. Maybe I just check, but I don't have the super highest hopes. I also wish instead of like having a fork here for one of those, because you need to run this EGL OBS Studio thing. It's only 57 commits behind OBS master. That's actually not too bad. Maybe I should actually try it out then. But if you run this professionally, but again, even then it's like 30 minutes extra of compiling it, keeping fingers crossed that it doesn't segmentation for it and does something. Well, I basically only do it for you. Even if I get it to work, the problem is I would need to get comfortable of this window and show. It's just like but basically, if you're wondering why do people do like, also this was the wrong focus, I want to have this. If you wonder why there is like Haiku OS stuff and so on, it's like, I mean, certainly this BOS kind of clone of really sucking less certainly has something. Maybe I should switch to OBS streaming. Leave in the comments below, should I spend 35 minutes more with compiling other stuff, or finally switch to Haiku and patch all the kernel driver or user space drivers for video capture and OBS support. There is, honestly, I said this before, commercial viability and stuff, probably one of at least fewer than 1043 OS Linux distributions and less window managers and stuff. If probably it's not too much speculation and leaning out of the window to say, in my humble opinion, some form of Linux in some alternative universe where Linux would be of one thing, that like one window manager and one desktop environment that is like really good and more in usability wise like Windows and Mac. It might have been the year of desktop Linux already, but this way we configure our input devices and keyboard mappings now differently than an Xcode. Jamaican writes Mazda 3. Yeah, indeed, Mazda, that's true. I have once test drove a Mazda Miata, that's, what is it in Germany? MX-5. Indeed, that was, I didn't check that. I only realized that infotainment stuff was indeed running Linux. Yeah, Mazda indeed is running quite some Linux. Vaporous Sunrise writes Compits was nice. Yeah, indeed. And this is also the things I really wonder. I checked the other day. This Compits also best with M. What the heck do we get there? Googled for Compits then. Probably some auto substitution of missing one character and then removing another. So this is also Abondonware. I think some of the last commits 2007 also, so there was like a new version because stable release of 08 and 09 of you can never, and Compits fusion of also what was, it's like, yeah, whatever, something. But I think this is quite Abondonware, I guess, at least I checked the other day. Maybe his Git web of, yeah, that it's Compits. So yes, so many repositories and plugins that probably. Also, yeah, this is like so many projects, and at the end, after a decade or two, everything becomes Abondonware. And yeah, I was running this in production. I really liked it in 2006 until it became Abondonware. So let's read the last comments. Somehow always when we continue here, also many more people than usual are tuning in for our after work of old men yelling at Wayland after work with some lemonade because hydration. But not a paid advertisement, but if you are a representative of this company, let me know to sponsor this video, which would be amazing, because this stuff is quite nice for hydration and otherwise staying awake. If this is even if hydration with maybe coffee, stuff. And then Lothar also writes bright ideas like GNOME Wayland implementation of Matter, not providing server-side decoration, not even as fallback, essentially breaking every non-GTK app. Oh, that is nice, super amazing stuff, thanks for that. VW compositors Discord screen only works Firefox and X Wayland applications. Easter egg found WL displays, which works with way good for display configuration. That is amazing. Marco said some time ago, what about microkernel EV? Yeah, maybe, I mean, T2 wouldn't be that bad as like maybe one T2 EV of umbrella thing, like kind of Mozilla foundation of whatever cool stuff we do here. Certainly no dedicated microkernel EV necessary, I guess. But then again, I think this is mostly a German thing, not really. Donations to T2 were very few in the last decade, also certainly activity currently restarts and becomes way hotter now with all the YouTube exposure. Hobo Wild says problem is take the finger from Android to immediately chop off X11 completely from distro Mac Wayland default. Did you see the Marco asked, did you see the hypervisor stuff of SEL4? Not really. I played with L4 and L4 Linux some decade ago. I've not really researched this the last years. I think when SEL4 was SEL4, the stuff from Australia, because some like 8 years ago when I wanted to review the sources, I couldn't find them. But yeah, the Hobo White writes there was a CDE and only one. There was CDE and the only one DE. It looked ugly to ordinary users. Yeah, indeed, that is true. I would argue like one desktop environment certainly of Linux sake should have. Yeah, but yeah, one desktop environment looked ugly. We made another one, and now 30 years later we have thousands of window managers. And wasn't it fun times when we were running after step and Enlightenment 16 and IceVM, and leave me in the comments below what you have run decades ago or still today. Lothar Zero writes, breaking as in who needs to move in close and size windows. It's like, yeah. Jamaican writes, have you seen the FX Tech Pro 1? A small spec bump. Doesn't ring an exact bill. What exactly was that? Oh, is it that one? No, so yeah, this we have seen, I've not seen, but so the problem is that I didn't found such small keyboards to be the most productive. So instead of carrying a potentially more breaking mechanical keyboard around with me, maybe a touchscreen keyboard is nearly the same. Or I have already the issue with the Sony Vario P, the previous video fame, that even the Sony Vario P is Sony Vario P is already at the border, especially with, back in the day they made this stupid mistake of having so much screen bezels there, and that keyboard is already not full size and a little bit near. So also, yeah, you Google for your stuff. Your video obviously is the first here, which might explain why so many people watched it. I think maybe in the meantime, fun fact is Sony Vario P limited Japanese edition thing might in the meantime be the most successful video of mine. Maybe I should actually switch back to pre-recording more video. But what I wanted to say is, so not only display, of course, yeah, it would have been so much more amazing with larger display. So for me, as much as I want, or yeah, also we still need to reverse engineer this PowerVR GMA 500. But this kind of keyboard and display size already, I realize already not the very most productive there. I will try what I can get myself into there. But the problem is also, like, same discussion with Wayland. First of all, GMA 500 was never amazing. Proprietary driver garbage stuff that's also even more Abondonware never quite worked amazingly, and PowerVR stuff. And then exactly with, yeah, if we would be in a future where we would only have Wayland, couldn't even run it on this frame buffer, nearly frame buffer only, and not or barely accelerated, certainly not 3D and stuff. So Wayland probably would run like garbage, if at all. But yeah, that's basically the summary. Maybe I try, before I go home, maybe I try some 15 minutes one more time to give the special snapshots there a try with Sway. But the efforts, if you have some requirements, the efforts you need to put in, certainly this is not the super most amazing. But what I will try, and so why certainly there are also 100, if not 1,000 kernels, certainly 1,000 kernels, which be like microkernel like QNX and stuff, but amazing stuff like, or somewhat amazing, but maybe Abondonware, like QNX, not free, not open source. Other stuff like L4, relatively good, but a similar problem of just being the kernel and rich userland and stuff, and never like really sophisticated driver and userland stuff. Some people do something, some proof of concept, some Gnode, everything in the kitchen thing and stuff. And for the learning experience and trying to do stuff differently, like not in C or so, like ReduxOS, we would need to write some stuff from scratch. And what I would, with the windowing system, I would actually, like for the educational purposes, our own microkernel, like previous videos, reverse engineered this Matrox Pahelia and wrote 3D stuff for Verge 3D, Voodoo, and Imagine number 9, Imagine 128, Revolution 3D, and a whole bunch of Silicon Motion, Lynx 3D, what never someone has done before. And what I would probably want to do is writing my own, like using the space and certainly my own GL implementation, like most stupid minimal GL implementation, and windowing system and stuff, because most minimal keep it stupid simple, like suck less but for real. And what I would want to do is like this kind of Wayland, just like with all, not in C and even saner, and also with more acceleration, or like Wayland without all the Unix thinking, like differently modern, because yeah, we have 15 sucking implementations, and we certainly need a 15th from me, which will also be sucking and only a proof of concept and for educational purposes only. But what I would want to do is support vintage stuff in terms of 2D lines and rectangles and bitBLT, because why not, so that it could be like a microkernel OS that supports latest and greatest blending, but still with old-fashioned fills and lines, and bitBLT for still being able to run on vintage hardware. Maybe that would even be a totally amazing, successful project. But leave in the comments below what waste of time that is and what ideas you have on. Yeah, let's see. Might be worth noting that the default way. So yeah, also more comments. Jasper writes, open PVRGS is starting to enable graphic on pulse, so it should work. I didn't see that. I googled a couple of times, so this GNU project wasn't there anymore. Also, this didn't copy and paste right. Let's Google this. So this sounds amazing. I didn't even, do we have, is it this one, or the last time I tried something, okay, this is just the driver I'm apparently running the old user space, but this is probably not all of that. So this is probably still not running. It's only part of this issue, right? If this is only kernel, it probably doesn't really solve the rest of the, but yeah, thanks for that. I think I got a comment to mailing list. I didn't find sources exactly, but yeah, certainly more option and more modern enablement for better reverse engineering, always welcome. Ella writes, it might be worth noting that the default Sway config expects a Alacrity terminal emulator, so it can't open a terminal. It'd be good to check that. What the heck, what terminal? I googled the other day best Wayland terminal emulators, but I don't remember that coming up. But yeah, 2020, you can never have enough GPU rendering. I mean, it doesn't, the summary always sounds amazing, like GPU accelerated. Maybe we should actually package that. Fastest terminal emulator and experience, certainly, probably, thanks for that. We probably should package that next, because you can never have too many packages and too many terminal emulators. So many comments coming in, which is also amazing. So yeah, thanks for sharing, liking and subscribing. It's nice to see, despite the lack of AAA pre-edited rare vintage Sony Vaio P Japanese limited edition stuff, and only mostly doing our random hobby open source stuff here, people still share, like and subscribe, which is certainly really nice to see. And so yeah, and I will package that, because the fastest terminal emulator is always a good thing, and currently works on some OMAP socks, assuming you're not using the usual and Clang. OMAP sounds like our BeagleBoard or so. I wonder, yeah, but we have some things. Nullbyte writes, can someone please tell me, you have to Sun partition table to install Linux on a Sun Spark being automatically created when I don't know the new Sun firmware, but for older Sun firmware, you for sure need a Sun partition table. Vaporous Sunrise, have you heard of Arcan? What is that? another thing, important thing I missed, or what is it? Open source, or what I need to Google hardware, something. Is it this one? Display 3D something? No idea, maybe. Marco writes really a hypervisor with some sort of cube style OS with JIT capable unikernel for managed code would be a dream for Marco, and yeah, somewhat of I said here so far. There are many usable parts. Well, there are certainly some parts in the world. If you want a really JITted stuff, then and not run TempleOS, then maybe there are not so many things in the wild, but the things in the wild are usually large, which is also why I really would like to see how amazing stuff can we build when we like write quality readable and most minimal code for JIT and stuff. Jasper writes, there's precedent of this actually working. As that sounds good. Although you still need the userland, right? So as I open this is a kernel. So previous video I installed the userland for reverse engineering. I wonder if you know if there is Power VR reverse engineering stuff. The last time I googled, I didn't find any, because it would be as good as it is to at least be able to run something. It certainly would be better not to have to run old Xorg, like even older, even more abundant Xorg versions for this binary-only drivers to work. Mirage OS improved the efficiency with their firewall for cubes, including performance really small in RAM. That sounds amazing. I probably didn't Google that before. Maybe I should. What is a library open system that constructs unikernel secure performance? All right, maybe I actually looked into this now that I read the summary. But yeah, thanks for sharing this stuff. I hope this is helpful for others to learn something, open their mind, and think about new ways, because with all the security vulnerabilities and old-fashioned C stuff, there is so much stuff to improve and advance and make more secure. And even the Linux kernel, by the way, is a new one, because scheduler regressions now, because yeah, so many buffer overruns and stuff, and null pointer and recurring stuff. Anyway, that's it for this video. I have some more stuff to do and so on. Hope to see you soon. Hope you learned something, and have a good day or night.